To my people from all over the world, once again, welcome to Africa Renaissance channel. Well, my people, have you ever asked yourself why the rest of the world views black people with a lot of contempt and a lot of disrespect? Well, the events which have taken place in Nigeria recently are a clear illustration why the rest of the world never respects black people. Well, my people, as you know, Nigeria is one of the biggest oil producers in the Africa continent. Last year, Nigeria produced 74 metric tons of crude oil, and this is because the country is blessed with an abundance of mineral resources. But for a long period of time, Nigeria didn't have the capacity, or a company to process the crude oil domestically. And so what the country used to do is that they used to export the oil to Indonesia, the crude oil, and later imported, processed oil from the same country. But Aliko Dangote, decided that enough was enough, and he put up one of the biggest, oil processing factories in the country. But now, the manner in which the federal government of Nigeria is treating Aliko Dangote, illustrates why Africans, are never respected by other races. And this is because the federal government of Nigeria, has refused to supply Aliko Dangote's factory with crude oil so that they can process, the crude oil domestically and later export it to outside countries, or even for domestic consumption, without having to export the crude oil to overseas countries. And my people, one thing that I know is that the African political elites, treat their African subjects with a lot of contempt. And what I would like to say is that, Nigeria politicians, take this level of contempt, to the next level. And this is because if you look at the statistics, Nigeria is one, well, in terms of GDP, it is one of the richest countries in Africa. But Nigeria, 40% of Nigerians live in abject poverty. So, if 40% of Nigerians are poor and don't have jobs, why does the Nigerian political class, export jobs to Indonesia? Why not provide, the same jobs to the Nigerian people? And this is why I say that the Nigerian political class are very irresponsible. And in fact, the demonstrations that we are currently seeing in Kenya, in countries such as Kenya, they're supposed to be taking place in countries such as Nigeria, And what I have to say is that one of the reasons why Nigeria and the rest of the African continent has been dragging behind, it is because our political elites cannot see the bigger picture. Our political elites only think about themselves, their families, and their families. And all that matters to them is, whether they stash money in foreign accounts or whether they have homes in places like the USA and other Western countries. The interest of their people is never a consideration for them. Because if we talk about 40% of Nigerians being poor, and mind you, the population of Nigeria is more than 200 million people. So if we're talking about 40% of the population being poor, we are talking about almost 100 million people who are jobless, who are extremely poor. And now you wonder why, the political elites don't want to take action to alleviate the suffering of these people. And one thing that you have to realize is that we are in the era of the information age. This means that information spreads very fast. And when we do such embarrassing acts, of course, the rest of the world is taking note. And there is no logical explanation for what, the Nigeria federal government is doing. If it was before the construction of Dangote Refinery, factory, maybe we could have understood, well, because Nigeria didn't have, the means to process crude oil in their home country. But now, Aliko Dangote has just spent more than 20 billion US dollars, to construct a refinery in Nigeria. So what explanation do we have to export and refine crude oil to Indonesia, And this, is not understandable because what they're doing in essence is that they're exporting Nigerian jobs to overseas, and prolonging the suffering of Nigerian people and benefiting Indonesians, and that resource is Nigerian, and it is supposed to help and assist Nigerian people and improve their quality of life. Well, that's all that I have for today. If you would like to watch more of this content, make sure that you subscribe to this channel.